Ladies and gentlemen, layoffs are here to stay, at least for a while. Corporations have decided that they're going to let go of perfectly qualified people in their workforce in exchange for quarterly profit, and that's really disappointing. There are ways that you can protect yourself. So how do you become layoff proof? That's what we're going to talk about today in this video. My name is Tom, and I'm the founder of Vertical Motion, where we help mid-career professionals become executives. Today, what we're talking about is how to become layoff proof. How do you avoid the trap of a company hiring you, telling you all kinds of great things about you, and then one day sending you to a 15-minute meeting with HR and off you go with a box and 2 weeks of pay. I get a little frustrated when I think about it, to be honest with you. It's really awful what we're allowing to happen inside of these large corporations in the name of shareholder value. So I can go on for a rant for a minute. I'm going to do that. And then we're going to come back to and talk about how you can actually become layoff proof. We have entered the phase of capitalism where it's okay to tear apart great organizations in the name of shareholder value. Shareholders are some of the most disinterested members of a corporation. They just sit there and collect the profits. They have nothing to do with the product, the people, the planet, the resources of that company. They have nothing to do with anything about the company except for the money that it generates. And somewhere in the 70s, we decided that maximizing shareholder value is more important than maximizing the value for the employees and for the customers and for the economy and for the world. And I find this to be gross, disgusting greed that just is completely run amok, and it's destroying the things that made America great, not making it great. So from my perspective, all of this greed is stupid. And I mean really stupid, because if you think about it, companies are breaking that sanctimonious level of trust that employees used to have with their company. Like if you go back to what the boomers had, boomer generation, they would show up at a job, make $3 an hour, grow for 30 years in their role, retire with a pension after having owned a house and a car and a stay-at-home spouse. And like, that's not a reality for anyone anymore. That doesn't exist in 2024. That's just not how the world works anymore. And it's because corporations have learned how to plunder themselves in the name of shareholder value. And corporations do this because we incentivize the highest level executives, the C-suite of publicly traded corporations, to plunder the company in the name of shareholder value because they themselves make most of their money from shares. So when you align the interests of the shareholder with the executive, what you get is you get the interests of the shareholders outweighing the interests of the company, of the people who actually use the products. Look at fucking Boeing, for example. This company was one of the greatest engineering marvels of the 20th century. And then some Jack Welch acolyte got in charge of the thing and stripped it down. There are people making $9 an hour doing design work. Boeing has been farming out their work to foreign countries and other firms and just outsourcing everything. And they actually moved their headquarters from Seattle to Chicago so the executives can't listen to the engineers telling them you are screwing up the business. So what's happened? People have died because Boeing builds shitty planes now. And it's because that's what their leadership wants. To paraphrase their CEO, he even said, this is now run like a business as opposed to an engineering firm. And great that it's profitable, but now it's dangerous. And that's what's happening to all these great corporations that are letting their executives rip up the fabric of the organization in exchange for quarterly profits. And this translates down to layoffs. Announce record profits, lay off 10,000 people. Announce amazing, never before seen, beat expectations, lay off 5,000 people. What the hell are we doing? So here's what this means for you and me as aspiring executives, as leaders in these corporations. Two things: don't be like that. Two, you have to protect yourself. You have to think of yourself as your own corporation. You are a free agent. This is no longer an economy where you can go work for a company for 25 years and get a watch and retire. There are people who do that. Don't get me wrong. Some people work 25, 30, 40 years in a company. That does happen. Generally speaking, for most of us, the average tenure in a company anymore is 3 years, and it's shrinking. No recruiter is really surprised to see someone post-COVID having 4 jobs in the last 4 years because good people get laid off. It's just ridiculous. So you have to think of yourself more as a free agent. You will have to move from role to role to role throughout your career. It's just not likely that you're going to find a role where you can spend 25, 30 years in that role and be happy. Now, some people can. If you're the kind of person that likes to do one thing really well and you do that and you find a place where you can do that, great, do that. But if you're someone who wants to move up in your career, it's really hard to do that in the same organization. So the truth is that you have to see yourself as a free agent in a transactional economy. And I know this is hard for some people to hear, but it is the truth. That's my rant. I talk about this occasionally. It's very frustrating to me how corporations corporations have ruined the way that corporations actually should work by breaking the trust that they've had with their employees for so long. So I get a little upset about it when I think about it. But with that, let's actually move into what can you do about it. So how can you actually become layoff proof in an economy where everyone is getting laid off for no really good reason? Well, first of all, I assume that you are good at something. If you're not good at something, go get really good at something. Pick a skill set or an area of expertise that you're great at and lean into that. Be a lifelong learner. You have to build your operations skills. You have to build your ability to do the thing that you do very well. If you're in sales, take a lot of training on how to be a better salesperson. If you're in quality, learn all of the things you need to know about Six Sigma and everything else to be a great quality expert. Whatever it is, whatever vertical that you're working in, make sure that you are leaning into education and lifelong learning in that. You want to build and hone and refine your craft. Second, use the mindset that you are a free agent. Think of yourself as your own corporation, that you may make money through a W-2 paycheck or a 1099 or a K-1, and it doesn't really matter. Even though our health insurance benefits are tied to employment, which really drives me nuts. But beside that, you still have to realize that you are going to move from corporation to corporation or company to company. And in doing so, you want to think of yourself as your own brand, as a version of yourself that can plug into these various corporations, right? We tie into cultures, but only for a while. It's a loose relationship, not a family relationship anymore. Another thing I tell people is to think of yourself as the CEO of You Inc. You Inc. is the company that is you, and how your company makes money is through your paycheck. So You Inc. has an operations or delivery side of the business, and that's where you spend most of your time and energy. But the truth is that you need to be spending time in marketing and sales as well. And if you think about it, how much time do you spend marketing yourself? How much time do you spend selling yourself? We don't really think about that when we're employees. We just think about like, I have to get hired, and you get hired like, okay, so my resume's on LinkedIn, someone found me and I got an interview and I got through it and I got the job. And now I can just go back to doing what I love to do. Yes, but you actually need to think more holistically. Think of yourself as an organization. Imagine if you worked for a company that had no sales or marketing department, or they had one, but they just turned it on every now and then when they needed to make payroll, right? Like imagine like a dusty marketing room and a sales phone with cobwebs on it. And like you walk into the business, like what happens when our current customer stops asking us to deliver the thing? Do we have anyone else lined up afterwards to buy things from us? No? What are we going to do about that? You have to think about your career the same way. It's important that you see yourself as needing to do well in operations, but also in marketing and sales. Marketing is your LinkedIn platform. I know LinkedIn is what LinkedIn is. It is the place where executive recruiters go find executives. So lean in to working on LinkedIn. Sales is your interviewing skills. So if you think about it, marketing is all about a funnel, bringing opportunities to you. And as opportunities crystallize into real true opportunities in the form of interviews, you have to then go sell yourself, and you have to be comfortable in that situation. So you have to build your marketing and sales abilities to market and sell yourself. This is hard for most people, but here's a trick. Sell your brand. So if you create a personal executive brand for yourself, if you build some version of yourself that is an example of who you want to be, and you promote that, you promote your message, you promote your vision, you promote your thoughts on some major topic in your industry, that's a little bit easier to promote than doing self-promotion, which is uncomfortable for us and can look poor. So instead of self-promotion, think of it as promoting your brand, promoting what you're capable of, promoting what you stand for, promoting those things. If you do these things, if you build your marketing and sales machine, you should have plenty of opportunities lined up all the time. And that is how you become layoff proof. You can't avoid companies being stupid, laying off great employees for no damn reason other than quarterly profit. There's nothing we can do about that right now. In the meantime, the way to protect yourself is have a pipeline of so many great opportunities on the outside that you don't feel worried if you do get laid off. And that's the key. is to have so many opportunities always constantly tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, I got this great opportunity that might work for you. You should come check out this company. This CEO really wants to talk with you. Those kinds of things happen when you are constantly and actively updating your network with your brand, right? When you do that, you create a pipeline of opportunities that never goes away. Even if you are happy in your role, those are actually the best candidates. Those are the ones that recruiters go after, is someone who's actually very happy in their role. They have no interest because they tend to interview the best. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. There are three types of people who interview. The first is in transition. They're laid off. They're desperate. They'll take anything. That's a bad interview because they basically will say like, well, whatever they have to say in order to get the job. The second interview is someone who's employed but hates their job and they want to move on and they're desperate for anything. They'll almost say anything to get a job. The third category is someone who's like, this is kind of interesting, but I'm really happy with where I'm at. That is a great interview because they are very discerning and they will interview the company back as hard as the company interviews them. Decide, well, is this a better fit than what I have? I have something great. Is this excellent or is this good? And that's what you want. Executive recruiters love to find people like that. So if you are happily employed at a company that you've been at for a while and have no interest in leaving, you should still be networking because if the layoffs do come, you want that pipeline to be available for you. And it takes months to get this flywheel going. So don't wait until you think you might get laid off to start networking. Be doing this always. This is activity you should be doing constantly, every month, every week, every day. You should be doing something to keep your network warm. All of this stuff is a numbers game, and it sucks that it kind of boils down to that, but that's the cold hard truth of our economy today, is that you are a number, you are a statistic, and you are in the way of someone else's shareholder value. So to be layoff proof, to avoid being surprised by a layoff, have so many opportunities cooking all the time in the background, build a brand that's so powerful that people are constantly reaching out to you for better and better opportunities. So at any point, you can just actually lean into one of those interviews and choose a new role right about the same time that you're getting laid off. The other thing that I've seen people do is build their network really well, really strong, really compelling. And when they get laid off, they send a message out on LinkedIn looking for my next opportunity. And they'll have 3 opportunities in their inbox before their personal effects box even hits the backseat of their car in the parking lot. So if that's what you want for yourself, build that brand. Right now, go take a look at your LinkedIn profile and look at it from the perspective of a recruiter. Will a recruiter come to your profile and see this very robust 3-dimensional version of who you are? Or are they just going to see like some bland resume? Which one will they see? Which one do you think they'll want to reach out to? Look at your resume, look at your LinkedIn through that perspective, and you'll be surprised at actually what you see. So if you want help with that, this is what we help executives do in the Executive Career Accelerator program. You can learn more about that by checking the link down below. You can also DM me on Instagram and we can talk about how we can help you take that next step in your career. I hope this was helpful to you. I apologize for the rant, but sometimes I have to get that out of my system. It's really frustrating that this is the world we live in, yet here we are. So here's how you be layoff proof. Go build a great brand. I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.